You have bandwidth to the villages, there would be better GDP, would essentially mean that there would be new vocations and new businesses which would come up in rural areas. Now, in urban areas, imagine 10 years back, 5 years back, if you had to travel to some place, if a poor person living in a slum had to travel to some place, he would take one day off from his job, lose one day's salary, go to the central station, Victoria or Mumbai Central, and stand in the queue for the whole day to get the railway booking done. Now lose one day's wages, be a load on the public transportation system, going and coming, and waste one day, and be a load on the railway station's infrastructure by standing there. Now this is about one person. Imagine thousands of people traveling every day. Each of those thousands of people would have come someday like this to the railway station to get the booking done. Now today if you have a kiosk, you know, one of the finest applications in this country is the railway reservation application, by which you can sit in US and do it, and I've heard people in US marveling at this, that they can get the booking done and find out their status through their PNR and all those things. Now with this thing, it is possible to prevent this entire load on the infrastructure of Mumbai, but provided it's there in the slum. Now how do you have internet availability in the slum? How do you have people having access to the device? Goelji talked about 84 crore mobile connections in India. My argument typically has been that these 84 crore mobiles are not in the pockets of 84 crore people. Typically everybody here has 2 mobiles. And you deduct it by 2, so this is straight away 42 crore. Now there are, as he also mentioned, if all of these numbers do exist, and there are well-known reasons why all these numbers don't exist. For the simple reason that at some point of time, the bandwidth was available to service providers only on the basis of the numbers that they had. So a lot of numbers were being borrowed and then deposited somewhere, and then at some point of time they found that the cost of maintaining these documents was more than the value these service providers were getting out of these additional numbers. So this movement of fuzzy numbers, mobile numbers, has slowed down a little bit now, but in the process a lot of numbers, so there are a lot of dead numbers. And my guess, and it's a pure guess, is that not more than 25-30 crore people possess. And yet it's not a bad thing, because if you take it as a family of 5, then also it becomes a pretty good substantial, and every mobile would not of course belong to a family, because a mobile is a very personal possession, and you don't many people don't give it to the family to share, and they have a lot of SMSs which they don't want to show and things like those. So maybe they don't belong to the families, but still I should imagine that not more than 40% of the country's population has access to this mobile. Now every mobile is not a smart mobile. What would be the number of smart mobiles? What would be the percentage of smart mobiles? Smart mobiles would be, to my mind, not more than 30% of the total mobiles which can avail of the applications which are rolled out for mobiles. So that actually reduces the number of mobiles. I'm saying this all essentially to drive home one point, that access to device is a major issue in this country. Connectivity is a primary issue, and second is access to device. And we need to have innovative ways to think of providing devices where simple even if you take, he talked of 386, P3, P4, or even PCXTs. Some of the PCXTs may also be able to take some of the applications. And in our condemnation policy, if we say that all the computers of earlier generation which are condemned should be located in the slums somewhere, then also it should be possible to have a large number of community desktops which can download these applications, which can have the applications availed of from there. And imagine the value of community desktops which are available in slums, and where people can access some of somebody can go and get at least reservation done. If he can get the reservation done at 7 o'clock in the morning, because otherwise he has to wait for the window to open, then, or 12 o'clock in the night, then it can serve such a huge purpose for people, for infrastructure, for the entire ecosystem. Now there is other service which we are going to launch, which is called 104. 104, we have 108 all over the country, which is emergency ambulances, and in Gujarat its performance has been awesome. As a matter of fact, today it's one of the biggest strength of the political system to manage an efficient 108. The population swears by it, and in any corner of the state, any woman who's pregnant, her due date of delivery is registered with 108, and the EMT of 108 is supposed to go and knock at the door in any village and say, "Madam, how are you?" And the response time of 108 in tribal areas also is not more than 1 hour, it's less than 1 hour. And its central control room here in Katwada is really a beautiful thing to be observed, where the management, one of the management parameters to me, and one of the parameters was how many calls were picked up after 2 rings. And this was one of the parameters. If the percentage of calls picked up by the fellow here after 2 rings was more than 20%, more than, like the number of calls picked up before the third ring came would be around 80%, 85%. So that was a criteria for performance and efficiency. Now this 104 is a service proposed where anybody can pick up the phone and say, "I am having stomachache, I have this kind of a spasmodic pain," or can describe one's condition, and there would be a doctor at the other end who would look at the condition and advise if there was something which could be prescribed and which was available over the counter. OTC kind of drugs could be specified by this fellow, and otherwise he could at least guide the person to an appropriate doctor. Now I'm saying this with experience because we lived in that part of Ahmedabad, Mr. Mal knows, Samarpan, where it's the heart of Ahmedabad, where there is a large slum called Gulbai Tekra, and people of that Gulbai Tekra typically are serving the population in this entire area, and we find these maids, they go regularly to quacks. Every time 100 rupees is paid, and when I look at the tablets which are dispensed, they are actually not even as good as the expired medicines of your house, and every month they would go to the same quack and say, "Okay, I am feeling weak, can you give me a transfusion bottle?" Because all over the country, poor people believe that if they can get a drip of glucose in normal saline, then they would become more energetic to serve at home yet another month. And this is happening all over the country. It's happening in the slums of Mumbai, it's happening in the poor people's place, and particularly in the urban slums. This is the syndrome, the Bartley syndrome, as they say, Bartley Chadhao or energy power. Now we keep telling these people, I have tried to educate these people that, look, why don't you see, none of us ever get this drip. I tried to say that 7 years you have been looking at me. When did anybody in my family get a drip? Says, no, you people are anyway energetic, you take good food and you take all that, so you don't need it, but we need it. So they won't trust you, they wouldn't believe you. Now if there was 104, and if there was this facility available to the poor people, I'm sure that number of such trips can be prevented, number of the amount of money that they spend on this kind of quacks can be certainly reduced. So ICT in education, if you see, access to schools, again, this slum, typically nobody studied, nobody went to school, though there were primary schools, municipal primary schools, bang in the colony, they would not go there because it would reduce one hand which was getting wages and salaries by doing household work. Now, would it be possible to have some kind of, our Mr. T.P. Singh is here, the BISAG is BISAG Bhaskaracharya Institute of Space Applications, and GN Informatics today runs 2 KU band channels and is going to run 10 other channels now, which are fully deployed, almost 14 hours a day, transmitting a large number of educational programs to primary schools, to preschool people, to higher schools for specialized subjects. And if there was some way, there could be education through satellite transmission. If there was some way, there could be education through internet. You have a lot of content now being developed, available, made available for education. And if it was possible to provide education to the children and to the elders without the formal means, I'm sure that it would make a little difference to their lives. So these are some of the examples which can, and I'm sure that everybody here knows that if you don't take ICT as the end in itself, take ICT as the means to improve the lives of people, then a lot of problems of urban areas, including the managerial problems like the load on infrastructure, load on transportation, load on many services, that can be reduced. Secondly, the lives of people, which constitute almost 70% of the total population, getting less than $2 a day, the quality of their lives can be improved. And thirdly, even the dynamics of urbanization, the migration pattern, the movement of people from rural areas to urban areas, even that can go through some modification, that can get reduced if ICT is used essentially as a means to look at some of these issues.